Welcome to the Fundamental Concepts in Pharmacology Part 2. This is the week 2 of our discussion, and we'll be having the other parts of the discussion as directed in the syllabus. For recap, let us understand again the natural sources of medications. We have plants, the oldest form of uh, healthcare source wherein herbal medications are generally used even during the ancient times by every cultures, by every traditions, and by every civilizations around the world. Perfect examples would be the Babylonians during the year 3000 BC, wherein they have prescriptions written on clay tablets. We have the Chinese recording the Pen Chao during the 2700 BC or 4724 years ago approximately, wherein a 40-volume compendium or collection of plant remedies have been written and recorded during their time, showing us that there had been lots of specific treatments, tests, experimentations, and researches done by the early Chinese people. Then we also have the Egyptians during the 1500 BC, wherein records from the Ebers Papyrus have recorded many forms of medication such as honey, onions, and parts of the olibanum tree like the saps and products. Uh, they have used that as part of their medication process. Specific isolation of substances have formed complex mixtures such as the morphine, colchicine, and cocaine from different plant sources around the world. Another source of drugs would be from animals. These are the biologics coming from animal parts, cells, forms of microorganisms, or even the human body itself, wherein hormones, antibodies, blood products such as the fresh frozen plasma, the whole blood, and the packed RBC forms, interferons or medications for strengthening the immune system, and many forms of vaccines such as the measles, mumps, rubella vaccines and the COVID-19 vaccines currently, and for the babies, the pentavalent form of vaccine such as the BCG or Bacillus calmette-guerin medication or vaccine. Now we have inorganic compounds existing around the world which are used for specific forms of medications. These are metallic substances from the element table, such as the copper gluconate as a supplement for the body, cisplatin, a form of anti-cancer medication or drug. You also have your iron formate and succinate, iron formate, and succinate, a dietary supplement. Another one would be your vitamin B complex from cobalt. Also, the manganese ascorbate. This is a form of medication for osteoarthritis treatment. You have your bismuth citrate for or acting as an antacid in ulcer treatment, potassium citrate, treatment of kidney stone, magnesium oxide for your antacid or laxative, and many others. Now, these medications, such as the example in here, the lithium carbonate is for people with mental disorder. such as manic depression or bipolar disorder treatment. Then we have synthetic compounds synthesized in laboratories. They are stimulants that mimic the effect of specific medications or some medications, such as cocaine. Now, there are also other synthetic compounds found in different countries around the world, such as in Australia, they have your synthetic cannabinoids, phenethyl, uh, phenethylamines, uh, tryptamines, and piperazines. So these forms of medications have helped or may have helped people suffering from different forms of illnesses around the world. Now, we have this topic, the general topic now for our week 2. The drug evaluation is a form of analysis wherein it is a series of scientific tests to do specific evaluation of actual therapeutic and toxic effects of chemicals in the body. Now, with that thing said, there are many pharmaceutical companies around the world that would create or recreate specific medications that are existing now and would try to even outdo or improve the medications. For example, for this drug evaluation, we'll have the paracetamol. It is a form of medication that is antipyretic in nature, and also it is a form of medication that is helpful in pain relief. Now, or it is an analgesic. There are examples of branded forms of paracetamol that exist now, such as Decogen, Biogesic, and Neosep here in our country that has added specific chemicals to the paracetamol that they may improve the medication itself. Now, in order to improve or add to the medication, there would be preclinical trials for the medication when they are going to add uh, other forms of medicines or drugs such as the phenylephrine hydrochloride, the chlorphenamine maleate to paracetamol in varying doses and in levels so that they may be able to check which would be the best dosage for the medication when they're going to add it to paracetamol. These preclinical trials are performed in varying animals in different forms, in different ways, or in different types of medication. They could be liquid form, they could be solid forms, inhalant forms, and the like. They are to see if it's efficient or if it's toxic, or it will rather cause harm to humans. Now, with these things said, though they may appear good in animals, the way these animals respond may not always be the same for the actual humans. That's why it is important not to overestimate or even underestimate the potential and actual risks where humans may be involved too. An orphan drug in this manner would then be a form of a prototype of the medication, wherein these are drugs that could be discovered but not financially viable at first. They could be adapted or not adopted by pharmaceutical companies. They may exist as a useful form of medication, or they may impose danger through the adverse effect of the medication. In specific phases of the drug evaluation, they may be abandoned after preclinical trials or during the phase 1 of the study. The criteria of an orphan drug is that it could lack the actual therapeutic activity that is so desired by the pharmaceutical company. They may be too toxic in varying doses. They could be teratogenic or could affect infants during their conception when used by mothers. And they could have a small margin of safety, which could only impose more danger for people trying to use the medication. Now, when the specific medications are accepted, when the data are all proven viable and useful by the Food and Drug Authority, the medication process and the testing process would then proceed to phase 1. Phase 1 is the time wherein humans are cleared for testing. The pharmaceutical companies have proven that these forms of medications that are tested on animals are true and useful through the data and researches that they have done and provided. The tests are to be done on healthy male subjects. Males are usually used during the phase 1 or during the testing phase or as subjects, because as compared to female, male bodies are not as complicated as that of females, wherein specific hormones may hinder the processing of specific medications, and these hormones may impose immediate danger to the female. And also, because of the differences in drug metabolism, it could create unwanted side effects, unwanted adverse effects, and also unwanted test results, which is why the male bodies are usually used, and also the male body is not as in harm with the overall general body type and physiology as that of a woman or female client. Now, companies during this phase may begin in developing a brand name for the medication that they are trying to create or recreate. So the orphan drug in this phase may be discarded after phase 1, as it may again lack the needed therapeutic activity in humans as compared to the preclinical trials wherein the animals are subjects for the tests. They could be too toxic and they could produce the unacceptable side effects and may be teratogenic for the body. For the phase 2, after having received the documentations, the data, and the researches during the phase 1, Specific chemicals may be cleared for limited studies. The other forms of the dosages during the phase 1 may not proceed because of the evaluation according to the criteria that they have shown, such as being less effective, being too toxic, and having unacceptable side effects. And there could be low benefit to risk ratio, wherein they may not be as helpful as intended to the human body, depending on, again, the dosage of the other medications as being tested. For the medication to push through, they should then pass the tests again in phase 2. Now for phase 3, again, same procedure with the phase 2. Other medications may not proceed because of the unacceptable side effects, the unexpected responses from the group of people from phase 2. However, for phase 3, the existing chemicals that may be accepted may now go for larger scale of clinical studies. For example, in phase 2, subjects may be specific people or specific male participants with the same form of illness. But for phase 3, could be larger communities such as the barangays, the sitios, but not specifically cities, but it could be a larger group of people such as a church congregation. Just an example. Now, if the medications have passed, or just one medication have passed to this test, therefore, what would then happen? No? It would then proceed to phase 4. Like for example, we are trying to create BioFlu as a company such as the Unilab. It is the BioFlu is a form of a paracetamol. Therefore, the existing one, the type of BioFlu that we currently have with 10 milligrams of phenylephrine hydrochloride, 2 milligrams of chlorphenamine maleate, and 500 milligrams of paracetamol, wherein phenylephrine hydrochloride is a form of nasal decongestant. Chlorphenamine maleate is a 2 milligram type of antihistamine, which is causing allergies to dissipate, and also the 500 milligram paracetamol, an analgesic and antipyretic form of medication, may then proceed to the last phase, which is approved for marketing. The drug is then for marketing as mandated by the Food and Drug Authority. However, it may still continue with evaluation through the years that it may exist in the market. There would then be the phrase or the word pharmacovigilance, wherein evaluations on the possible side effects may be observed for the sole purpose of watching out for the side effects, again, the adverse effects on the different cultures, norms, mores, traditions, societies, the types of races that may use the medications, such as the Caucasians, the Mongoloids, or the Negroid type of race here in the world. Now, that would be the phases of drug evaluation. Now, with these things in mind, when the medication has passed through the phases of drug evaluation, it may then proceed in the creation of the dosage form of drugs. For the dosage forms of the drugs, they could be in different forms, in different shapes, different sizes, such as letter A, the solid forms. We have the tablet, wherein they could come from different strengths, shapes, and sizes, such as the oblongs, the circulars, the cylindrical forms. They could be scored, they could be readily broken in this form. Uh, we have the forms of tablets, again, such as the scored. They could be cut into half and be used as intended by the user. Then we have the layered form of tablet, wherein it is a combination of one or more active pharmaceutical ingredient along with excipients. They could have two or more layers, four at most, to form a single unit of dosage. Then you have the enteric coated form of tablet, wherein it is coated for the protection against the acidic environment of our stomach. Always remember that not all forms of medications would react well with the acidic environment found in our stomach. They could impose uselessness when exposed to such. Therefore, the enteric coating may protect them up until when they reach the small intestine for immediate absorption and immediate exposure to the kind of environment the small intestine has. Then we have the chewables. These are intended for children and for adults or geriatric adults who are having difficulty in swallowing medications, or even mentally disabled people. Could be flavored into different um, tastes that they may be able to have enjoyment or without problems in taking off the medication. And the sustained release form of tablet, wherein they could stay much longer in the small intestine, so that majority of the percentage of medication from 40 to 60%, it could be absorbed up until hopefully 90 to 95% of the medication. So that would be the tablet. Then we have the capsules, a gelatinous shell. It could contain powder inside or beads or pellets released in a specific time and specific form and mode. Now, capsules that are sustained release tablets should not be crushed, should not be diluted in water or other forms of fluids, as they will be absorbed at a faster rate, and that would be against the indication given by the manufacturer. Then we have the soft gel. It is a form of capsule wherein it contains fluids such as oil or maybe actual fluids themselves, inserted in a much tougher type of gel covering, which are resistant to oil and fluids. Then we have the hard gel. This could be corrosive forms of medications in specific tablet shapes, which is why they are encapsulated in hard gel forms of capsules. We have lozenges. This is a form of medication. It is used for sore throat, throat irritation, cough, and other forms of illnesses in the upper respiratory system, wherein they provide cooling feelings, increase in saliva, also in the mouth, and comfort due to pain. Always remember that these are medications and must not be consumed just like a candy is. Just like strepsils, do not use them or eat them up and crush them just like candies. If you are having sore throat that is severe or that lasts for more than 2 days, or a cough that lasts for more than 7 days, or it keeps coming back, or symptoms with a fever, headache, rash, swelling, nausea, or vomiting, it is better to tell the doctors immediately. If sore mouth, throat, or cough symptoms do not get better or last for more than 7 days, have an appointment with the doctor or the dentist. It could be signs of serious conditions and could impose serious medical problems, which is why these lozenges are forms of medications for pain relief and for other relief of coughing and sore throats and irritations. Again, if the fever or the illness persists, consult your doctor. Then we have the suppository form of drugs, wherein the suppository is not used orally, but it is used, or it is a solid form that is used for laxative, especially on children and geriatrics that are having difficulty in defecating. Make sure not to use the medication orally, as they are prescribed and written down by the manufacturers themselves. Do not be confused with these forms of medication with the oral medications. Now we have a dosage form of drugs in liquid form. We have your syrup, a fluid type of medication. This example is the guaifenesin. It is used as an expectorant or mucolytic form of medication. Then we have suspension type of medication. This is a type of medication that is used for uh, heavier forms of illnesses. In order to use them, you must always shake them off. Make sure that they are properly mixed, properly shaked, as they are suspended forms of medication, such as that of a colloid. So in order to ensure the proper absorption and preparation of the medication, the suspension forms must be properly and thoroughly mixed before administration to the patient. Then we have the elixir form of medicine. Always remember that an elixir is a form of medication wherein there are types of medications that are not um, dilutable or could not be diluted in plain water. They would require alcohol water combination or an alcohol based form of fluids that they may be able to be diluted and properly mixed. Then we also have the emulsion form of medication. This is a form of medication that has or may consist of two immiscible liquids, meaning they do not combine together, wherein the one liquid it has small globules referred to as the dispersed phase, and the other one is distributed immediately, termed the dispersion medium. So, an emulsion medication is a liquid dispersed system again, and they could be used uh, for usually for anesthetic forms such as the propofol, the example. You can see the formations of the partially solid substances that are floating around the other liquid holding it. Then we have the dosage forms of drugs, which are inhalants. Though they may be in liquid forms still, make sure when they are administered to the patient, they are properly inhaled, they are properly dispersed in the oral cavity and then inhaled to the lungs, such as medications that are used for asthma, the salbutamol, MDI. Now we have cream drugs or topical ointment forms of drugs. We have the cream drugs. An example, we have your topical corticosteroid. We have your ointment drugs used by children, an antiseptic form of medication against diaper rash. Then we have the lotion types of drugs, such as the clotrimazole cream, USP, patch medications, such as the nicotine patches that are attached on the skin, wherein they are absorbed through the skin of the patient. Then we have your gel drugs. So these gel drugs are in gel form, not in lotion form or cream form, such as this ketoprofen. It is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory form of drug. So those are the dosage forms of medications that can be created by pharmaceutical companies. Now, the drug action. We must always remember the drug action of medications. The drug action refers to, again, all the pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic processes involved in producing a drug effect on the disease. There are four main categories for this one. Again, these are the absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. So we'll be checking out what are the common types of the drug action. We'll have, of course, the therapeutic effect, the desired and the primary effect as needed or as imposed by the pharmaceutical company or the pharmacologist. Then we have the side effect or the secondary effect, but not necessarily the bad effect, but these are just unintended effects in the body. And then we have the adverse effect. This could be the severe side of the side effect or the severe form of the side effect of the medication. These are the actual undesired effect of the medication. We then have the drug toxicity, deleterious effects. Deleterious meaning dangerous effects in the body. People could be overdosed in them. They could be ingesting topical forms of drugs, which is really wrong. The medications could be accumulating in the bloodstream, giving poisonous results to the body of the patients. Then we have drug allergy, the immunologic reaction to a drug. What is the reaction of the body upon reception of the medication. Then we have drug tolerance, the capability of a person to withstand the dosage being used. They have low physiologic response to the medicine. We then proceed to the principles of drug administration. When we say principles of drug administration, we check the guidelines, the proper ideology behind giving medicines to the patient, wherein medications are substances given to the patient for diagnostic purposes, such as administration of contrast dyes for the patient so that the radiologist may be able to see deeper into the patient's internal organs as they proceed with uh, radiologic procedures such as CT scan, MRI, X-ray, and the like. Then when we say cure, it is a form of treatment that makes the health problem permanently go away or is not expected to really come back or return to the patient. When we say treatment or medications used as treatment, it is when the healthcare workers or healthcare providers try to control a health problem, lessen the symptoms, or partially clear up the existing signs and symptoms, such as therapy, surgery, and other approaches to the patient. Then we have your relief of symptoms or prevention of disease, such as administration of vaccines. Now, for the practice guidelines, always make sure as registered nurses, all of you in the future, be responsible for your own actions. You cannot blame other people if you have given the wrong medication to the patients. When you are not able to read the doctor's orders or the handwritings of the doctors are illegible, as always, make sure to have them, the doctors, read to you what they have ordered for clarification purposes so as to avoid any problems when giving medication to the patients. They should be questioned, they should be clarified at all times. Registered nurses should then be knowledgeable with the medication because there would be times that the patient would be asking about the medication, so make sure that they are able to understand the medicines that are provided to them. And also, as patients are clarified with the medicines, they'd be able to appreciate more the medications that are administered to them. If the registered nurse is not sure about the drug calculation, they can always ask another nurse, the head nurse, the charge nurse, or the supervising nurse for clarifications, for the checking up of the drug computations. Now, speaking of calculation, I would like to ask everyone to have your calculators ready. Have them attached, or the small ones, or the small types of calculators should be attached on your IDs as they are used by true registered nurses. And also, because of the drug computation, and since this is a subject of pharmacology, you are to have your drug computation as part of your examination. So please be prepared. Then you have your um, basic principles in giving the drugs. What you prepare, you administer. Do not ever give medications that are prepared by other people, as you are uncertain of the type of medications that they have actually prepared. So be responsible of your own actions. Again, we go to principle number 1 in relation to principle number 4. Another one, do not leave medications beside the patient or at their bedside, as this will impose danger to the patient. Make sure that you are the one who administered the medications, especially medications that are injectables. If the medications are for oral medications, still do not leave them with your patients. Make sure that you are the one to see the patient taking up the medication orally. Next, if the client vomits or has different forms of reactions in the medication, immediately report to your charge nurse, to your head nurse, to your supervisor, and then to the medical doctor, or just both of them immediately. When error in medication is made, immediately assess the patient through vital signs and then report to the doctor so as to prevent further damaging the patient. Make sure to have correct identification of your patient. Check their ID band, their wristbands. Ask the patient their name. Do not say the name of the patient. Have them verbalize their own names, as many people will always, or many patients will always say yes, even though it's not their name. Now, as nurses, we observe the 10 patients' rights. We will be discussing each and every one of them so as to clarify what are these and how are they useful, especially in uh, the nursing profession. The right client, always make sure to check the client's identification at all times. Check the labels of the patient. Check the names of the patient. Check the bedside for any labels about the patient. Making sure that you are administering the medication to the patient properly and to the proper patient themselves. Some clients may not answer their names or may not be able to respond, such as the comatose patients. So to make sure that you have the right patient, verify them. In the event of the patient missing their bracelets, try to identify the client, have them verbalize their names before any forms of drug administrations or any ways of drug administration. Right drug, always make sure to give the proper medicine. The medications are ordered by the physicians, the dentist, the podiatrist, and even advanced nurse practitioners or any person that who are given authority by the state or by the country. For the prescription of the medications ordered by the physician, the following should always be present. Number one, the date and time the order is written or given, the name of the drug, the dosage of the drug, where it would be administered or the route, how many times during the day, and up until when the drug would be given, what are special instructions, messages from the medical doctor, the signatory, and the dosage adjustments if as needed or if needed, what to withhold, when to withhold, specific laboratory results, and the effectivity of the drug. Make sure to have the signature and the license number of the physician present in the prescription so as to avoid any problems with the pharmacy. The right time it is when to give the prescriptions or prescribed dosage, when it should be administered to the patient. It may vary on different institutions such as the public or the private institution. It could be the difference between the primary, the secondary, and especially the tertiary level hospitals. Daily drug dosages could be given in specific time of the day, such as when we say BID, it could be 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. That is different with Q12 or every 12 hours, which is done usually 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. as compared with BID, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Then you have your TID or thrice a day, usually given at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. Q8 will then be its contrast, wherein medications are given at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., or 4 p.m., and 12 midnight. Again, Q8 is given at 8 a.m., 4 p.m., and 10 p.m. as compared to, again, TID at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. Again, these are according to different institutions. 4 times a day or QID would be 8 a.m., 12 noon, 4 p.m., or usually 6 p.m., and then you have your 10 p.m. Again, QID would be 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and 10 p.m. as compared to Q6 or every 6 hours of 6 a.m., 12 noon, 6 p.m., 12 midnight. Then we have orders of the categories of drugs or the drug order categories such as standing medications. When we say standing order of medications, these are medications that are seen in the doctor's progress sheet or doctor's orders sheet. As long as the medication is written there, it is a standing order. It is to be done continuously or to be given continuously to the patient. There may be differences in the doses, but still it would continue as is or as its name applies, unless the doctor states the term defer. When you say the word defer, that is to discontinue the use of the medication. Then we have the term one time. It is given presently. It is given just in the present time, such as when the patient is not able to urinate, the doctor may order the nurse, please give furosemide 10 milligrams through IV now. When you see the word now, that is just a one-time giving of the medication. Then we have the term PRN, Prorenata, meaning as needed. When we say PRN, these are uh, medications that may be or may not be needed by the patient, so they are as needed only. They may be used by the patients to alleviate specific illnesses such as chest pain, or breathing difficulty. Then we have stat. When we say stat medications, these are immediate and usually used in emergency situations. So doctors may say, give the medication stat or immediately now for emergency purposes, such as epinephrine during emergency episodes of the patient. In this part, the right route, always make sure that the medications are given according to where they are intended to be given, such as orally, sublingual, or under the tongue. Then we have your buccal at the patient's cheeks or gums, to be melted but not to be chewed upon or crushed. Through inhalation, such as the salbutamol MDI for asthma relief. Topical, or the uh, skin of the patient. Instillation, such as the IV drips. And then your suppository, or the anal route. Then we have the right to educate. Make sure that the proper information are given to the patients, that they may be updated on the form of medications. Through client teaching, they may be given the right purpose of the medication, of course, the therapeutic one, or the use of the medication for therapy purposes, the side effects of the drugs, the restrictions on the diet of the patient. There are times that there are medications that administered after eating or before eating. uh, the laboratory monitoring, and the like. Then we have the right evaluation. We need to check the response of the patient on how effective the medication is and how it is reactive to the body of the patient. For the right to refuse, patient also have the right not to take the medications. It is the responsibility of nurses to see if the patient may refuse the medication. When possible, just make sure that the patient sign the waiver of refusal so as to protect the nurse and the medical facility from any uh, rights of the patients, and from to protect the institution also, just in case a patient would file a uh, case against the institution. Now we proceed with the routes in administering medication. So we have oral medication, the most common ones. For contraindications, check if there is vomiting of the patient, uh, when there is problem with the gastric area of the patient. Of course, we are not going to give the medication orally for patients that are unconscious or patients who have difficulty in swallowing the medications, as they uh, may choke on the medicine. Always check for tablets and capsules with uh, swallowing difficulty. Make sure that the patient is able to drink water so as to assist with the swallowing of the medication. Make sure also not to crush specific medications such as the enteric-coated, the buccal, and the sublingual tablets. They are made for that sole purpose of being absorbed and digested slowly, not immediately. For liquid medications, make sure you mix them properly so as to ensure the proper amount of medications as intended. Make sure that we use the eye of meniscus for measuring the amount of medication. Look at the bottom of the meniscus. Then we have parenteral medication. There are many forms of parenteral medications. We start with the intradermal, the sites given on specific parts of the body, such as the lower arm, upper chest, the front and the back. You have the proper angle at 10 to 15 degrees. The smaller the gauge, the better. Now, and also the smaller the length, the better it would be for the administration of intradermal medications at a maximum level or milliliters of 1 or zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.2. Then you have your subcutaneous form of medication found in the upper arm, the anterior thigh, the actual abdomen, the fatty part of the upper back, the ventro and the dorsogluteal. At 45 degrees or 90 degrees when grasped at 2 inches, at the gauge of 25, 26, or 27 in specific length, and a maximum dosage of 1 to 3 ml or cubic centimeter. Intramuscular could be found in specific parts of the body. First one would be your ventrogluteal, greater than 1 year old and adult. There are no large nerves or blood vessels there. They are sealed off by the bones. They contain less fat than the buttocks. So that would be on the almost side of the body. At the vastus lateralis, site of choice for 1 year old and younger, or infants with fully developed gluteal muscles. For the dorsogluteal, for adults and children with well-developed gluteal muscles. Not for children under 3 years old, so as to avoid striking the sciatic nerve. At gauges from 24 to 20, length of 1 inch to 2 inches, at 2 to 5 ml, 90 degrees, since this is a muscle. Then you have your deltoid muscle, very close to the radial nerve and artery. It is absorbed rapidly for the adults and administer only not more than 1 ml, and usual site for Hepa B vaccination. Could be from gauge 24 to 20 at 1 to 2 inches with a maximum ml of 2 to 5 ml. And the angle of 90 degrees. For the rectus femoris, could be self-administration. Disadvantage, it could be discomfortable. It could show discomfort to the patient. um, Parenteral medication or intravenous form or intravascular form, you have your gauges 24 to 20 at 1 to 2 inches. It is a push form at 10 ml and could be infused at 4 liters in 24 hours. We have the following: intradermal or subcutaneous 25 degrees and up, intravenous 24 degrees down, the length of less than 1 inch for the intradermal and subcutaneous. For the intramuscular and intravenous, you have your 1 inch and above. Topical medications could be the trunk or lower abdomen, hairless part of the body. If it's with hair, do not shave, just clip it. Avoid having cuts to the patient, burns, abrasions at the distal extremity. For ophthalmic or eye medications, clean the eyelids and eyelashes of the patient from inner to outer canthus. Make sure to explain the procedure to the patient and make them look up. For liquid, always use the number of drops as ordered. Outer third of the lower conjunctival sac. If it's an instillation type, punctual occlusion for 30 seconds. For ointment, discard the first bead. Just drop it. Squeeze 2 centimeters on the lower conjunctival sac. Always make sure to have your instructions to the patient. Patient may close their eyes but not squeeze out the eyelid. For otic or ear medication, clean first the pinna and the meatus of the ear canal. If it's warm, or if you need to warm the medication, it is placed between the hands or just in warm water, not hot water or boiling water. Straighten out the auditory canal. For adults greater than 3 years old, pull the pinna upwards and back. For children less than 3 years old, pull the pinna downward and backward. For instilling the medication along the side of the canal so that it may drip properly, gently press the tragus and insert small piece of cotton fluff loosely. Make sure to instruct the patient to remain in side-lying position for 5 minutes so as the body, especially the ear, may absorb the medication properly. For terminologies, the drug name, that is the naming of the drugs. Oral medications, these are medicines done or given by the mouth or swallowed through the mouth and absorbed through the gastrointestinal tract. For parenteral medications, it is a sterile drug administered through injection, ophthalmic medication, drops of gel or ointment to the eyes. Topical medication, it is administration to a particular part of the body, such as the skin or the mucous membrane. If you have your canker sore or mouth ulcers, this is applicable too. For the otic medication, this is a drug product for treating the external and the middle ear. The source of this information is found in your book, Linda E. McQuistion, 2023, Pharmacology, a Patient-Centered Nursing Process Approach, 11th edition. If you have any questions, please send a message to me, and I will try to give the best answers as I can. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.